This is March. Chicken vodka wrap is to die for.
Welcome to Stuff with Jon Rothstein.
Best player you don't know in college basketball.
We have a very high bar on this show. I've let myself go, I'll be 400 pounds. I just want to make sure I don't go all in on chocolate chip pancakes at the diner down the street.
Forget about not sleeping until May. I may not sleep at all, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. College hoops. Everything else is just secondary.
Who's ready to nosh? Welcome to Stuff with Jon Rothstein. Another day, another week, another reason to be excited for college basketball. And what a show we have lined up for you today. In just a couple minutes, we're going to hear from Iowa head coach Fran McCaffrey just hours before the Hawkeyes' massive game against North Carolina in tonight's ACC Big Ten Challenge. We're also going to get to plenty of news and nuggets from around the world of college hoops throughout this 30-minute program. But first, let's tackle some big picture stories in a New York Minute. We start with a theme that I think is really permeating throughout college basketball, and that is this the year of the outlier in college hoops? All of the major blue bloods, with the exception of Villanova, appear to have major flaws. Kansas is suffering from a lack of reliable post play. We're seeing Duke and Kentucky rely on youth in the backcourt. And you can say the same thing about North Carolina, the team that will travel to Iowa later this evening. Another big thing to keep an eye on, and this is a big picture thing well beyond college basketball. Do not get emotional about cancellations. Do not get emotional about postponements. We are dealing with a once-in-a-century type pandemic. And remember this, as of this morning, 87% of all Division I basketball programs in college hoops were up and running. Stay positive, test negative. And then lastly, another storyline that is going to resonate from now all the way up until Selection Sunday. Entering today's games, the Big Ten was a combined 45-6 as a conference. This league is deeper than it was last year when the Big Ten would have had 10 teams in the NCAA tournament if the tournament was not canceled due to COVID-19. And you look at the teams at the bottom, the Minnesotas, the Northwesterns, and Nebraskas. The league is better than it was a year ago. And my advice to coaches in this league, I quote John Belushi in Animal House circa 1978. My advice to you is to start drinking heavily. And now on that note, we would like to bring in the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, who has a big game tonight against North Carolina. He is Fran McCaffrey. And Coach, before we get to the matchup with the Tar Heels, my well-embedded moles in Iowa City tell me that Fran McCaffrey is a pretty big Bruce Springsteen fan. If you had to listen to one Springsteen song tonight to get you ready for the game against the Tar Heels, what would it be?
Wow, John, I wasn't ready for that one. There are so many good ones. I did my first Springsteen concert was Born in the USA at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, so that would be a good place to start. But obviously, the thing that makes him great is he's a rock and roller, but he's also a storyteller, and pretty much anything he does is just instant classic. And I've been to see him many times since then, and he just gets better with age.
Well, he gets better with age, and you might say that when you look at some of your Iowa teams play offense, that they're born to run. But in addition to maybe sometimes shifting your style as a basketball coach, you've also had to adjust to different areas of the country in your coaching career. You coached in the Northeast for a long time at Siena, and I know you way back to your days in the MAC, and I know that Fran McCaffrey likes a pretty good Italian meal. What was it like shifting from the Northeast and all that good Italian food to then trying to find a reliable sauce in the Midwest?
It's really hard, John. You know that. Obviously, Chicago has plenty of great options. Iowa is not the greatest place for fine dining when it comes to Italian food. But I have found a few places, and then appreciate it when I get back east, appreciate it when we get to Chicago. And it's something that I would pretty much eat 5 or 6 times a week if it was available.
Well, we're going to pull some strings, Coach. I've got, a couple of friends in some high places here, in the 5 boroughs, and we're going to ship some sauce out to you guys because we know that the Big Ten is coming, and you need all the things, obviously, in your favor to deal with this conference. But let's shift now to college basketball.
Okay.
We're in uncharted territory, not just as a sport, but also as a country, as a society. For you personally, what has it been like coaching and managing a program during COVID-19?
You know what, John? It has been our sanctuary. Nobody goes on vacation. Nobody travels. Nobody really goes out to eat. Nobody goes to concerts. Nobody goes to large gatherings. So pretty much the only thing we do as a program is, we come to work, we watch film, we prepare for practice, we practice, we lift, and we go home and stay kind of within our general circle of friends, the guys on the team, and just prepare for the next game. So, for the longest time, as you know, we just kind of shut everything down, and everybody just kind of went home and stayed there, didn't do anything, and for guys like you and me and most people, that's okay for a couple days.
Right.
We all need a little bit of a break, but at some point we got to get back in the action and do something. A little bit of family time was great, enjoyed that. But, right now, the fact that we're back out there, I think a lot of credit has to go to Danny Gavitt, and as it relates to our conference, Kevin Warren and the presidents. I know it was a struggle with football. We got it on the field. Basketball, we had a return to play plan right from the beginning. And our institution, with Bruce Harrell and Gary Bard, I just can't say enough about those two and how they got us back in the building. We're one of the two conferences that do daily testing, and that just gives you peace of mind knowing you're getting tested every day. Sort of eliminates contact tracing.
Yep.
If we do pop one. So we had a little bit of an outbreak in the summer before we started this testing. Not that testing is a cure; it's not. Just lets you know who's positive and who's not. But we're looking pretty good right now, and thankful for the opportunity to play the first 3 games that we did, and looking forward to tonight.
Well, what an opportunity you have tonight against one of the blue blood programs in the sport in North Carolina. I'm curious, Coach, what will you learn about your team tonight after playing North Carolina that you didn't know prior?
Well, North Carolina has maybe the biggest team in college basketball, arguably the best rebounding team. So, that will be something we see nightly, as you pointed out, in the Big Ten. The teams are big and strong. Teams rebound well. We want to run. It's great to say you want to run, but you got to rebound.
Right.
You talk about defense and looking at defensive numbers. Well, defensive numbers change dramatically if you give up offensive rebound putbacks or offensive rebound kick-out threes. So, I think it starts there. Roy's teams have always run. They've got speed in the backcourt. They've got speed in the wings. Their bigs always run. They're very athletic front court players. They have depth. So, they challenge your team in every way. They're a well-coached, well-drilled team. They play at their pace. They battle you on the glass. They move the ball and share the ball. And that's what the great teams do.
Well, you mentioned rebounding, and that's one of many things that's been associated with Luka Garza. Truth be told, Coach, I had to go and order a thesaurus because I was running out of adjectives to describe Luka Garza's game. As you watch him every day right now, and you've seen him evolve from his freshman season to now, what is the biggest difference in Luka Garza that you see this year versus the year he had a year ago?
I think he's playing with supreme confidence. I think you saw it last year. His consistency was something you rarely see. He was a really good player his freshman and sophomore year.
Yep.
Really good. But last year he was the best, and that's something to say when you think about it. So what you have is a guy that not just relaxing on the fact that he was the returning National Player of the Year, with so many publications, but he's a guy that worked out much harder. Because essentially, John, he bet on himself. he could have gone
Right.
pro. He would have probably gotten a roster spot. He would have definitely gotten a two-way. He had lucrative offers overseas that he was weighing. Decided to come back and proved to everybody that he could be that much better. He's shooting the ball from three. He's moving extremely well. He's incredibly confident. And for us, as it relates to our team and our team's ability to win, I think his leadership has been spectacular as we navigate a very difficult time.
Well, Luka Garza is obviously one part of Iowa's basketball team this year, but anybody who follows your team knows it's not the only part. You're healthier than you were a year ago. From your vantage point, what's the biggest difference in this group of Iowa Hawkeyes versus the one that won 20 games a year ago prior to the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, John, we have a lot of experience, and to get, we essentially have our starting five back that finished the season. But to start the season, Jack Nunge and Jordan Bohannon were in that starting lineup. So
Right.
you have a veteran group, and you have a group that's a year older. I think Joe Wieskamp and C.J. Frederick were really good. C.J. led the Big Ten in three-point shooting, and Joe led it in free throw shooting percentage. Connor led it in assist-turnover ratio. So that's Connor McCaffrey. So he's back. We have a lot more versatility now because we can move him around and plug Jack Nunge in there. But then we also got Patrick McCaffrey back, who can really score. He's a 6'8" wing. And then you add Keegan Murray into the mix, who's a phenomenal rebounder who can also score, very bouncy, very long. And then I haven't even mentioned Joe Toussaint, who finished the season as our starting point guard. I think you'll see his numbers continue to improve. He can create off the dribble. He provides phenomenal defensive pressure. And then, we have some young guys, Aaron Eulis, Tony Perkins, Chris Murray, Josh Agundale. And you say, well, you don't need that many guys. But as you know, anything can happen. Somebody tests positive, they're out 21 days. So depth is going to be critical. We probably would have redshirted a couple guys because we think the world of them. But
Right.
You don't have to. You got a free year. So I think to answer your question, a lot deeper. We've added some pieces of established players. Bohannon very likely could end up leading the Big Ten in three-point shooting, the best in history. So, we've got a lot of different weapons, and I think we have a group that fits. We've got pieces that fit and a willingness to share the basketball.
Well, you mentioned the supporting cast right there around Luka Garza, and it's a supporting cast that has so many different options. And you start then to have the conversations that you and I have had over the past couple of months about doing historic things and potentially, competing for a Big Ten regular season title or getting to a Final Four. With all those goals in mind, though, Coach, how important is it on a daily basis to remind yourself to stay present given the circumstances and the task that's going to be ahead of you in the Big Ten?
So important, John, and I think even more important in this crazy year because we're really trying to convince our guys just stay together. College kids, they like to go out, they like to go to a party here and there. We're not going to parties. We're not having social gatherings, That's not something you typically talk about. You trust their judgment, that they are prudent in their decisions. But now even more so. Thanksgiving, we stayed here. Christmas,
Right.
We're playing. You're not having big family gatherings. When we had a little bit of an outbreak in football when they started playing football games, and all the families came to town and treated it like it was before.
Right.
It's not like it was before. So we have to kind of stay distanced and just like you said, pay attention to the task at hand. Now, you look at our schedule. You got Carolina tonight, Iowa State, in-state rival, and we've got Northern Illinois, and then we've got Gonzaga, and then we've got 20 monsters, as you pointed out. No easy game. So many veteran teams in our league. So it's not only stay safe, stay together, pay attention to the task at hand, be ready for the next opponent, because there are no easy games, regardless of how many veteran guys we have and how good we think we might be.
Well, you mentioned the schedule that you have ahead, and you mentioned, obviously, the capabilities of the team that you have, and you're going through this not with one of your children, but with two. And that's something that's going to be a bond between a father and his two sons, not just for this season, but for a lifetime. Despite everything that's happening right now in the world and has happened in 2020, how much have you reminded yourself of that blessing?
John, you're so right. It is an absolute blessing. I mean, I used to be excited back in my days at Siena when I would just bring those guys on the road with me. They'd stay in the room with me. They'd go to shoot around. They'd go to the meals.
Right.
They'd be with the guys. And now they're on the team. So now they're into meetings in a different way. They're studying film. Okay, Patrick, you might have to guard Leaky Black. Okay, all right, what's he do? And Connor, he might have to guard a guy who's 6 inches taller than him, and then he might have to go guard a guy who's really, really quick. So we just kind of lock into that, but just. And I always go back to what John Beilein said. When his son played for him, you see your sons every day. That I'll go down the steps and we'll be walking over to practice, and I'll see Connor coming out of the equipment or getting his stuff at the equipment room. How awesome is that? We travel together. We eat together. We compete together. We grow. They love the game. I love the game, and there's nothing better than having them here with us.
Well, Coach, that entire topic is one positive, and now I'm going to shift from that to something that from a Big Ten head coach's perspective might not be a positive, and that's the depth of the Big Ten. I've been doing this now probably close to 15 years on the beat, and I remember in 2011 the old Big East got 11 teams into the NCAA tournament, but there were teams at the bottom of that 16-team league that you knew that people could beat. I know you're a couple of weeks away from getting in the conference play, but as you evaluate this league, what do you see?
Every team has really good players. Every team has a few stars. Sometimes you look at Power 5 leagues and say, okay, they're all good, but they don't have stars. Everybody's got stars. Everybody has a really good coach. So, all right, which teams graduated guys and are going to be a little bit younger, a little bit inexperienced, maybe not have as much depth? Well, everybody has depth. Everybody has everybody back.
Right.
I mean, Michigan State, lost Xavier Tillman, and Minnesota lost Oturo, but it's a different world. There's transfers out there. Everybody's immediately eligible, so it's not the same as it used to be.
Right.
You can reload. So those that did lose a few guys reloaded, and those that didn't lose anybody has everybody back. So you're plugging in guys that may have gone pro, like Jalen Smith, with
right.
veteran guys. So it's a different experience for all of us. I tend, John, to look at the Big Ten the same way every year, ever since I came into the league. This is a league like no other. And my first year we were picked last. We were picked dead last, and at the end of the season we beat Purdue, was ranked 5th.
Right.
At home. And they had a great record, and they had a much better record than us. But that's what this league is. And I think at the end of the day, that kind of is what makes it special. I think that's what the fans love, and I think that's what the players sign up for.
Well, it definitely is, and they're going to sign up, obviously, for another opportunity at Iowa tonight to make a national statement against North Carolina. But before we let you go, Coach, one final thing. As you know, food is a big part of this show and a big part of my life. If Fran McCaffrey could have one meal, where would it be? What would it be?
I'd probably go to Rosebud in Chicago and get chicken parm. That's probably what I would do.
All right, Rosebud in Chicago, not far from Gibson's. They've got, that raisin bread there. That's obviously part of the ensemble. I've had a bowl or two in my life by myself. But, Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes. I know it's a game day. Good luck against North Carolina. Stay safe, and, of course, look forward to staying connected throughout the rest of the season.
Me too, John. Look forward to it. Take care, my man.
You got it. That is Iowa head coach Fran McCaffrey for joining us on Stuff. We appreciate it. Iowa and North Carolina tonight in the ACC Big Challenge. Looking forward to that game. And now let's shift and let's get your questions from social media in our next segment, which we call Don't At Me, Bro. So let's go to the questions right now and take a look at what you are obviously asking about college basketball. And our next one is going to be from It's Leak, y'all. And it's, John, where do you see VCU finishing this year in the Atlantic 10? VCU has surprised me out of the gate. They played great in South Dakota. This isn't a very old team, but Mike Rhodes has this team ahead of schedule, playing really, really good basketball. Next up, it's from Mimsy, and it's, John, could Michigan shock the college basketball world and win the Big Ten? Michigan's very capable. I'm going to dig in my sweet potatoes fries here for a sec. So good. Michigan's very capable. 2 NBA caliber forwards in Livers and Wagner. I don't see them as a team that can win the Big Ten, but I expect they'll be in the top 5 or 6. Next question. So good. Our next question comes from John, and it's, how many bids will the American Conference wind up with? You know, Houston is a lock. After that, it gets a little bit dicey. I was extremely disappointed with Memphis in South Dakota, especially during the first couple of weeks of the season. South Florida is a team to watch. They play LSU coming up in Atlanta. And SMU also had a big win on Saturday against Dayton. Tyson Jolly is still out of the lineup, so I'll go with Houston as one lock. Beyond that's to be determined. Next question. Next question from Alex Graboyes, and it's, John, Xavier is 6-0, but most of the wins have been quite close. How do you feel about Xavier's outlook? I'll tell you what. Xavier, I'm just going to dig into these eggs right here. Best thing about having diners in the tri-state area, you can have breakfast at any time of the day. It's menu versatility. Biggest thing I took away from Xavier in the crosstown shootout win on Sunday against Cincinnati, they have guys right now who have just been recently eligible. Adam Kunkel, the transfer from Belmont. Also, Colby Jones, who was out of the lineup due to contact tracing due to COVID-19. He's a talented freshman. Their depth is getting better. I think Xavier's in the mix to be an NCAA tournament team. I don't know beyond that. I'll learn a lot more about Xavier after this week's game against Oklahoma. Our next question comes from McBucket's Bets, and it's, John, what do you expect from... I'm trying to read that right here. I got a graphic issue. Anybody see what that says right there? What do you expect from the... See, the Vols, that's Tennessee. Okay, what do you expect from the Vols? I expect Tennessee to be a top-tier team in the SEC. We have seen, obviously, the issues surrounding Kentucky. Tennessee, and, talking to Rick Barnes in the preseason has told me this, I think has a chance to be an awesome, awesome defensive team. Tennessee opens tonight in Knoxville against Colorado. Next question. This is going to be from Colin Summers. And of all the mid-major teams you've seen so far this season, which ones stick out to you as programs that could potentially make a run in March? For the record, I do not consider teams in the Atlantic 10 or the Mountain West Conference to be mid-major teams. I love what I see out of Western Kentucky. I also think BYU out of the West Coast Conference is one to keep an eye on. BYU is going to play Boise State this week. And also keep an eye on Furman. This is an awesome offensive team. Furman has 2 big opportunities in the next couple of weeks. One against Cincinnati tomorrow night and another against Alabama to make a national statement. Keep going with the questions. And it's Mr. Mustard. And it's, when are you going to come up with a post-win tweet for Brad Underwood and the Illini? Hey, look, these are not things that you can force. These are not things that you can just pull out of air. The one-liners, the taglines, the post-win tweets are things that have to organically come, but this is definitely on the radar. Just a note to Illini fans everywhere. Another question. All right, and this is from Austin, and this will be our last question. It goes, since there will be a difference in total games played across schools due to COVID, how will the selection committee be able to make a fair judgment when selecting at-large bids? This is a great question, and I've talked to Dan Gavitt about this from the NCAA. The selection committee knows this is going to be, obviously, an imperfect season, and it's not going to be equitable in terms of the games that are played. I will say this, though. The eye test and the optics are going to play a bigger role this year than the metrics because it's not going to be equitable when you look at the non-conference opportunities for every conference in college basketball. We are seeing, in my opinion, more than we've ever seen before, a great divide between the power conferences and everybody else in the sport. Appreciate your questions. We will get to them, more of them next week as part of our segment we call Don't At Me, Bro. Now I'm going to finish up here with a couple of news and nuggets. and I think this is something to point out for people who haven't seen this guy on the West Coast. UCLA point guard Tiger Campbell continues to be stellar at point guard. He had 12 assists to 1 turnover in Sunday's win over Cal. Campbell with 29 assists to 7 turnovers so far this season. That is better than 4-1. And how about a shout out locally right now to Seton Hall Sandru Mamukelashvili. Mamukelashvili has scored 20 or more points in 3 of Seton Hall's 5 games so far this season. Prior to this year, he only scored 20 or more points 3 times in total. And then lastly, Rutgers will host Syracuse tonight at the Rack in Piscataway. Rutgers has lost 13 straight meetings to the Orange. They haven't beaten Syracuse since January of 2003. Keep an eye on whether or not Steve Peichel and company can do things differently this time against Syracuse. And so many great games to watch today. Creighton is going to travel to Kansas as part of the Big East Big 12 battle. I mentioned Syracuse at Rutgers. We also have Illinois at Duke. Another nugget for you. Duke has only lost 3 non-conference home games since 2000. Could a 4th be on the way tonight against the experienced Illini? And then, of course, we just heard from Fran McCaffrey, a big-time litmus test for Iowa at home against North Carolina. If Iowa is going to be a team that has dreams and aspirations of going to a Final Four, winning a Big Ten regular season title, these are the types of games that you have to win. I want to thank again Iowa head coach Fran McCaffrey for joining us here on Stuff with Jon Rothstein. We'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And remember, America, stay positive, test negative. And in the airport of life, college basketball is the Delta Sky Club. I'm ready to eat. And remember, after breakfast and dinner, lunch is the most important meal of the day. So fresh. So good.